Too many people associate retirement with the end.
I figure it'll be a little bit of a transition to try to slow down a little bit.
The number one question I have about retirement is having enough money to last.
In my mind, you start to look at it, that's an opportunity to do more of the things you want when you want to do it.
Make it financially able to do things that I enjoy.
Party.
Just financial security and enjoy my family.
More people need to go into it with their eyes wide open, understanding what is my plan, what do I want to do, and then how am I going to get there?
Will the rules change?
I have no real specific plan.
I'm planning for what the status is right now. I just hope it doesn't change drastically.
Welcome to the Retiretastic Show with Joanne Regan, powered by the Retirement Income Store and brought to you by Financial Security Group of Arizona. In retirement, it's all about income. And today, you'll hear ideas, concepts, and strategies designed specifically to generate reliable retirement income. Now, here's the host of the Retiretastic Show, Joanne Regan.
Welcome to the Retiretastic Show, and I'm Joanne Regan, your host, where my goal is to help you have a fantastic retirement. So today we're going to be talking about skeletons in the closet. And as we move into fall, we all think about things like Halloween, which just passed, and also Thanksgiving coming up. But what am I talking about when I say skeletons are piling up in the world's financial closet? Well, as long as they stay in that closet, everything is good. But if those skeletons start to fall out, we're not going to be so fine. So I have a great show planned today, and I really want to have a simple conversation with you about this idea that skeletons are piling up in the world's financial closet. The summer of 2021, it began with so much optimism, and that has actually come to an end. What I want you to think about is as Wall Street does cling to that optimism, its grip on that optimism, I think, is going to get tested, because there's really a lot of issues that have emerged that could impact the financial markets. My question is, as you listen to the Retiretastic Show today, are you prepared? I'm going to talk about these skeletons that are piling up, and I'm going to identify them as I go throughout the show. And I'm going to continue to ask you if you are prepared. And we're going to talk about what you can do in retirement to protect yourself when any of these skeletons fall out of the closet at any time. So what kind of issues am I actually referring to? One of the issues that I'm referring to, and it's the one that's been lingering around for quite some time now, and that's COVID-19. So the reason summer started with so much optimism is that the COVID-19 infection rate started falling, and the U.S. economy was actually fully reopening. And wow, did we go into summer with full optimism. But as summer wore on, what happened? Unfortunately, new COVID-19 variants emerged and infection rates actually started climbing again. And when we think about COVID-19 variants and think about infection rates beginning to climb again, the trend has actually gotten quite worse. In some areas of the United States, hospitalizations and infection numbers are now higher than they've been at any time during the pandemic. That is so discouraging. And for those of you that might have suffered during this go-round with the variants, or those of you that have friends and loved ones that are suffering, I really want to say I'm so sorry, and I understand that it's real. The thing that's different now versus when COVID-19 first emerged is that although these infection rates are high, it's not having the same impact on the economy like it did the first time. You would expect that, right? Well, that's good news. It's true because of why? I think there are several reasons. One of them is that the vaccines are working and have slowed down the spread of COVID-19 among those that are vaccinated. People know that, and we're not having to shut down the economy like we did the first time. The other reason is that we have a lot more knowledge and a lot more understanding of COVID-19 and what's going on. So we're actually able to react differently than we did last year. Last year, we all got scared and we hid in our homes and we social distanced and we did all the things to keep that virus from spreading. That kind of counterbalances it. But with these variances, which may be vaccine resistant and more deadly than the original virus, we all really don't exactly know how to act. And if it was to become wider spread, could it lead to a de facto economy shutdown in which people are simply afraid to go out? Kind of hard to imagine, but fear is a powerful, powerful motivator. So when we think about that, that's very troubling. Already, fewer businesses are not able to offer outdoor service options in many parts of the country. because we're in fall. We're going to go into winter. And that's a skeleton that remains in our closet. And it actually could go either way at this point. And not to mention flu season, which seemed non-existent last year because of the dominance of the COVID-19 virus. But I'm wondering, should we be concerned about the flu virus and the vaccination both? So I'm giving away an amazing book today, and I have limited copies. And I'll give one to you at no charge, and it's called Now or Never, written by Dee Carter, who is a fellow fiduciary financial advisor like myself. And if you would like a copy of that, you have to be one of the first 5 callers at 1-800-FSG-7890, and I'll get that right out to you. If you're not used to how the Retiretastic show works, throughout the show, I usually have commission reports or books that I offer to you, and all you have to do is give me a call at 1-800-FSG-7890, and I'll get those right out to you, but you do have to call and request them. So today we're talking about skeletons piling up in the world's closet. And there are several things that I believe in on the Retiretastic show. And I haven't talked about these in a long time. And I'm going to let you know that there are 5 things that I want you to understand that I believe in. Number 1, I believe that stable, renewable streams of income in retirement are possible, highly possible. Number 2, I believe that Wall Street's traditional investment advice is helpful when you are in the accumulation stage, but that same advice is very dangerous when you're in the distribution stage. Number 3, I believe that variable annuities can be helpful in the accumulation stage, but again, can also be very detrimental when you're in your distribution stage of life. Number 4, I believe that the wisdom that we learned from the Great Depression era of people in America, and that wisdom of protecting your principal and living off your interest and dividends is more relevant now than ever. And lastly, I believe that the brokerage industry is highly enamored and addicted to mutual funds. And that is a classic story of when good is the enemy of the best. And a little bit later on, I'm going to highlight one of those and make it part of the show. So let's go back to the topic of skeletons piling up. We talked about one of those skeletons, which was the COVID-19 and its variants. And we know that skeletons are in the closet. And it's okay when they're there, but it's not okay when they fall out. So that's the discussion we're having today. What happens when one of those skeletons fall out of the closet, or multiple skeletons fall out of the closet, and affects the world's market? It's not like that isn't going to happen, but what are you going to do? I'm going to talk about a couple of the skeletons that I see right now that are in the world's financial closet and ask the question, are you prepared? And what are you going to do when 1 or 2 of them fall out? So another one of the skeletons in the closet is a threat, and that threat has increased, and we don't know exactly how it's increased. And what am I talking about? Terrorism. That's a threat that's bad. Depending on what happens in Afghanistan and other foreign nations, and depending on what happens with ISIS and what happens in the next few weeks or months, terrorism in some ways could go either way. As we talked earlier about COVID-19 and the variants, the reality is that fear is very motivating and a big factor when it comes to how the markets react. And it's heartbreaking to think about that we just had the 20th anniversary of 9/11. And at the same time, the Taliban has reemerged as a threat to our national security. Could the eviction have been done better? I don't know. I thought it was really interesting during the eviction process how all of a sudden many Americans became military experts. Everyone had an opinion on how it should have happened. And the reality is we don't have troops on the ground in Afghanistan. And what kind of risk is that going to be to our national security as the Taliban now rules Afghanistan? So today I'm going to give away a couple of commissioned reports. One titled Pandemics and the Stock Market, and another is titled Reset Your Retirement. And both of these reports are more valuable, and they can help you to obtain the income you need to help during this type of environment and give you the retirement income that you dream of having now and forever. Give me a call at 1-800-FSG-7890 and request those reports, and I'll get those right out to you. So we've already seen one terrorist attack, and that was during the withdrawal when American troops were killed in Afghanistan. Will the situation get worse? Will it shake up the markets? When you look back on terrorism that's happened in the past, when it really flared up and when it got pretty scary, it usually does affect the markets, and usually in a negative way. So we've talked about two skeletons so far in the closet, terrorism and the unknown COVID-19, both of which have had a track record of when they fall out of the closet, when those skeletons fall out, they do have a way of bringing down or affecting the market. I'm going to talk about some of the other skeletons on the Retiretastic show, but the big question is what are you going to do? Are you prepared? Have you actually had a conversation with your advisor about what if the markets begin to get spooked? Are you going to be prepared? Are you going to know what to do? And is your advisor going to react appropriately? I think one of the great things that the clients at Financial Security Group enjoy is that they know that their advisors and staff and team are prepared. And most importantly, my clients know that their investments are prepared. So what am I talking about? It is entirely possible to position your investments in such a way that the very thing that you need most in retirement, which is paychecks or cash flow or income, it is entirely possible to set up a portfolio with your nest egg in such a way that when you need most out of retirement, which is normally income or cash flow, that those paychecks can come consistently. And whenever one of these skeletons fall out of the closet, it's not going to affect your ability to have income. And that's what you need in retirement. Earlier, I went over 5 things that we believe on the Retiretastic show, and I'm going to review one of them. So I believe that stable, renewable streams of income in retirement are possible. And I believe that. And I want to say that again. I believe that stable, renewable streams of income in retirement is possible. And that's what I want to talk about today. When one of those financial skeletons fall out of the closet, and we don't know when it will happen, but you and I know that at some point the market is going to experience a massive correction, and it always does. So are you prepared? So what I'm saying is that it is entirely possible to set up your portfolio so that you invest more for income than you do for growth. And because when you're investing for growth, we call that investing for the G. And that's where when the markets are doing really well, like we've enjoyed over the last several years, that's when you can pick up 8, 12, 20% returns in a given year. However, when those skeletons start to fall out of the closet and you're invested too heavily for growth, and you probably have already experienced that, many of you in 2008 and 2009, well, then you know that that's going to have a massive correction effect on your portfolio. For those of you that have been retired now for 10 or 12 years, you know what it's like to go through when you saw your portfolio fall by 40 or 50%. And depending how much of the G you were invested in, it could have been even more. And how are you going to take your income? Well, that's the challenge. When you're invested too heavily for growth and the skeletons start to fall out of the closet and the markets go down and could stay down for 2 or 3 years until they recover, what are you going to do about your income? If you're selling assets in order to be able to take income, instead of taking your check off of the dividends and interest that is generated by your portfolio, it is going to financially hurt you. And if your portfolio isn't generating enough dividends and interest where you could skim that out and not touch your principal, what are you going to do? You're going to have to chew up your principal to get your paychecks or your cash flow. And you don't want to do that. You want to be able to take income. And I just have to tell you, income planning is Wall Street's best. The Wall Street best in my industry, in my opinion, has been in the past, invest for growth, sell off assets, and take a check. But that's not really helpful, and it's very confusing in retirement because the traditional investment advice in retirement doesn't change from when you're in the accumulation phase. A lot of the advisors out there, their measure of success is how big has your portfolio grown. And they don't really measure the success when you're taking money out and you're having to sell off assets or sell off principal to get that income that you want. They don't really know how to handle that when the markets drop and you're having to cannibalize your portfolio. So again, my philosophy is traditional investment advice in retirement doesn't change much when you're in accumulation. That is, you can stay heavily invested for growth and a little bit of income take out what you want, and over time you should be fine. But when you are in the distribution phase, it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work because you're not getting dividends and interest enough to satisfy your paycheck requirement. And when the market go down, now you're chewing up your principal, and that's not going to work. So if you're not sure how to do that, why don't you give me a call? Let me show you how investing for income really works. But I also have a couple of those commissioned reports again, Pandemics and Stock Market, and another titled Reset Your Retirement. And both of these are very valuable information to help you obtain the income you need to help through your retirement and give you all the dreams that you want come true. All you have to do is give me a call at 1-800-FSG-7890. Request those reports and I'll get them right out to you. My goal today is to make you understand and help you understand that you can set up your portfolio in such a way that you earn consistent dividends and interest, and that you don't have to sell off your principal to get it. That's what investing for income is all about. You may be asking, if I have $1 million, is it possible to generate dividends interest that would be more than 1.5%, which is typically what a growth portfolio generates? Yes, yes, yes. I am saying to you that me, Joanne Regan, your host of the Retiretastic program, as a fiduciary and an investment advisor, that I invest my clients' money in a blend of investing for income. Some of it may be invested for growth, but I will tell you that I am able to do that, and I'm able to target between a 4 and a 4.5% return right now on dividends and interest. Is there still growth? Of course there is. But I want you to think about this. If you've invested $1 million and you're getting $40,000, 4% of dividends and interest, can you live off of that? Would that be better than taking that same $1 million and having to take off money and sell assets to get the income that you want? I can tell you it definitely works. So let me repeat that. If you have $1 million invested properly, the way that I'm talking about, you should be able to get between $40,000 and $50,000 a year of sustainable, renewable dividends and interest income. Yes, I'm saying that. And if $3,500 to $4,000 a month, along with your other sources of income, keeps you successfully retired, then that's good news. Investing in that type of format and that type of allocation works even when those skeletons fall out of the closet. So let me talk a little bit about another type of skeleton in the closet, if you will. And that's really the delicate state of the economic recovery that's going on itself. So far this year, if you think about it, there's really only been one issue that has caused the real stock market volatility. It's been the economic recovery and the speculation that causes it to slow down. But there's also the threats of inflation and rising interest rates. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that right now. What we're going to talk about is the delicate state of the economic recovery. So when we talk about the threat of inflation and the possibility of rising interest rates, that's a volatility that we've seen related to those issues in all three major markets. We've seen that in the past. And how is that going to work? Will the Federal Reserve undo it by mistiming its next move? If the Feds raise their short-term rates too soon or too fast, that could send us into a recession. One of the reasons that there's so much money in the system right now is because the Feds have kept interest rates low. Basically, the Feds have been putting money in, infusing money into the markets ever since the virus caused the economic shutdown. And they've been doing it by buying distressed bonds every month. As the Federal Reserve buys back bonds every month, they leave in the market lots of cash. And of course, the Feds have already announced that they're going to slow down the amount of bond buying. And if they do that too quickly or undo rates too fast, that could send us into a major recession. So I'm saying that maybe one of the skeletons in the closet could be the Federal Reserve. On one hand, if they wait too long and don't do anything, inflation could worsen. If inflation gets really bad, that's the arch enemy of the stock market going up. Inflation over a long period of time could be really detrimental. In either scenario could send the markets into a tizzy. Honestly, if you think about it, it wouldn't be the first time that poor timing of the Feds triggered a correction in the stock market. So that's the third skeleton, so to speak, in the financial closet. Obviously, no one knows what's going to happen, and there are a lot of important points that we have to keep in mind. One is that for all of that incredible optimism, that stubborn optimism of the stock market, where the stock market is right now, we're clinging to optimism, as I've been pointing out, but the bond market is telling a different story. Oftentimes, the bond market does, and I've said before that the bond market is often the first one at the party that realizes the stock market is drunk and people are staying too long. Often, it's the bond market that speaks the truth a whole lot earlier than the stock market does. Another important factor is to consider that historically, fall is typically seen as a challenging time for the financial markets. And this perception is based largely on this is the time when financial markets typically crash. And when does that happen? In the 10th or 11th month of the year. Did you know that? In fact, the panic of 1907, the great crash of 1929 and 1987's black market, did you know that all of those happened in October or in the fall? And even though Wall Street has enjoyed plenty of strong Octobers, the October effect can still have an impact. Well, here we are in November, and we haven't seen that October effect yet. But I'm saying that perhaps another skeleton in the closet is just about to be a reality, and we don't know exactly when that's going to happen. The main thing I want you to think about is, are you prepared for when those skeletons do fall out? Now is the time to get serious about figuring that out. I would encourage you that it's time for you to get serious about your finances and serious about looking at the things that could trigger a huge adjustment or decrease in your portfolio. With that in mind, are you comfortable with how your portfolio is allocated? Are you comfortable with your investment advisory firm in your retirement? Do you feel like your advisor actually understands the fact that you're in the distribution stage of your retirement and you're no longer in the accumulation stage? Would you say, of course he knows that, but does he or she really understand that your investments could change with that massive philosophical change? Because if you're accumulating money for this point of life, and when you were putting money in 15 and 20 years ago, you were adding to your portfolio. You were not taking from it. And your investment time horizon was way different than it is now. Now you're in retirement, and retirement is about income. And I don't really think that Wall Street gets it. What I'm saying is your portfolio, if it's still invested like it was when you were in the accumulation stage, then you are going to have some issues, and your advisor needs to understand what those issues could be and help you prepare for that. And if they're not willing to do that and help you prepare, I highly suggest that you get a hold of me and let me show you how we can invest you for income instead of for growth while you're in the distribution phase of your retirement. Give me a call at 1-800-FSG-7890. That's 1-800-FSG-7890. And I just want you to know that there are skeletons in the world markets that could fall out. And you have to know deep in your mind that your portfolio is properly invested. And I hope that I've given you some hope that it's entirely possible to change your portfolio to generate the income that you need and also still experience growth. It's entirely possible to invest your portfolio in such a way that when the skeletons fall out, you are not going to be hurt. You're going to be okay. It was really great speaking with you. I'm your host, Joanne Regan. Stay safe.
That's all the time we have for today. To speak with Joanne off the air, call 800-FSG-7890. And for more information about our program, visit yourfsg.com. The Retiretastic Show with Joanne Regan airs Saturday afternoons at 1 and Sunday mornings at 8:30. To speak with Joanne off the air, call 800-FSG-7890. That's 800-FSG-7890. Or visit us online at yourfsg.com.
Investment advisory services offered by FSG Financial Services, Inc., a registered investment advisory firm in the states of Arizona, Nevada, and California. Sound Income Strategies, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisory firm, is a sub-advisor of FSG Financial Services, Inc. FSG Financial Services, Inc. and Sound Income Strategies, LLC are not associated entities. FSG is a franchisee of the Retirement Income Store. The Retirement Income Store and Sound Income Strategies, LLC are associated entities.